Okay, here we are again. Today, we're standing on my parents' lawn next to trees that were planted when I was 11 years old. And part of the timeline of trying to describe who I am and where I've come from, this segment is going to cover basically from 1977 up until the mid-80s when I went to college. And so in 1977, my parents were able to, thanks to some inheritance from some family members, give them enough cash to be able to come down here and build their dream home. And that was the first movement out of Little Valley, which is a segment you've probably already watched at this point in time. All have amazing fond memories and all feel like individual lives that I've lived. Even though it's a cumulative life experience, it feels like each one of them was an individual life in and of itself because they were all so unique and blessed to be doing them and all. So anyhow, in 1977, my parents moved down here. I was 11 years old, approximately 5th grade. And it was wonderful to be closer to town, but definitely missed Little Valley, which is where my great-grandfather and grandparents spent all their time, which is about 14 miles to the southeast of here. Many fond memories here growing up. Both of my brothers being 3 teenage boys in a house. I'm amazed the house still stands because we played every rough house body damage game on the planet. And there's lots of dents in my parents' house to prove that. This is a phase of my life also, transitioning from elementary school to high school, which is an interesting phase of life. You start trying to figure out a little bit more about who you are and what you're about and what you stand for. And people start asking you questions about where you're going and what you're doing. And you really don't know, but you start thinking about it. For me, I knew. Matter of fact, a couple of times I kind of hung myself by the tongue and just said, well, I was born to be a farmer. And so I got teased about that probably for at least 20 solid years. We know what you're going to do. We know what you're about. You were born to be a farmer. Matter of fact, I think I have a license plate somewhere on a machine somewhere that I got from John Deere that says BRN2FRM, which is born to farm. But anyway, I was blessed to really know that at a very young age, what I was about and what I was really passionate about. And it was being around my grandparents and my parents and being involved in agriculture. And so, like I said, when we're down here, this was the beginning of our transition into more of a farming and production agriculture kind of a concept than what my previous generations were doing, which was, registered quarter horses, cattle, lumber milling, whiskey production, i.e. our moonshine brands. And so as we started producing hay down here, my dad primarily was producing hay down here on our original, I believe it was 240 acres. The majority of this hay that my dad was developing this ground, because when my grandfather bought this ground, it was basically sagebrush. And my dad started clearing the land and setting up irrigation systems and producing hay, but the hay primarily was producing to support my grandfather's cattle operation. And my dad really quickly found out that his passion was much more on the farming side than on the ranching side, that the cattle and the horses were not something he was super passionate about, that he really enjoyed being down here and being part of this. And so as a consequence of that, he started developing on the side a retail hay business and started planting orchard grass into alfalfa and started trying marketing alfalfa and orchard grass. The reason that was a very daunting task for him and other people doing the same was that alfalfa grass at that time in the industry was old alfalfa that volunteer grasses had come into. And so it was a very difficult concept for my dad and others to be actually planting clean, healthy, young crops of alfalfa and orchard grass mixed, going into a market that alfalfa grass was really just old alfalfa that was dirty. And I'm grateful that those people, including my dad, started developing those types of industries and those types of cropping mixes, because now alfalfa and orchard grass and alfalfa grass now is well understood in the industry to be an intended planted crop and not a byproduct of an old aged out stand, and a very popular thing that we do and that we really enjoy doing. And so as I was trying to figure out my way through high school, we started handling hay at that point in time. We still had people coming and getting it with hay elevators, putting it on a truck by hand, hauling it 13 miles up the road to Little Valley, elevating it by hand into barns that was ultimately going to be fed into feed bunks, feeding cattle. We graduated to using a system called a farmhand system, which would grab, in this case, I believe it was 10 two-string bales, because we had a single New Holland 283 baler, and this thing would put 10 of them in a bunch, and then the other part of the farmhand was a mechanical system that grabbed those 10 bales and set them onto a trailer. That was the first, for us, the first way we started kind of semi-mechanically handling hay, and then eventually worked our way up into the utilization of harrow beds. So the first harrow bed that we bought here was a New Holland Super 1048 harrow bed, and the Super 1048 would only put bales on edge, which means that they're not quite as stable from a stacking standpoint. So we had a lot of poles and a lot of stakes and trying to prop and stand up stacks. And then eventually we decided to let the stacks fall down and restack them flat so we could grab them with the farmhand and once again mechanically kind of put them into the barn. Still very cumbersome and time consuming, but much better than complete hand labor. And so we thought we were really tricky and really fancy. And then eventually in our neck of the woods, the concept of squeeze blocks and bales stacked flat and mechanically grabbing blocks from a harrow bed and either putting them into a barn with a hay squeeze and or loading them on the truck was you're still relatively new in our area. There was 2 or 3 people that were starting to do it. The Knock family had a road runner at that point in time, and we're doing that. And so we eventually graduated up to a New Holland 1075 harrow bed, which was a harrow bed that was designed to put stacks and have the ability to make them flat and then ultimately make squeeze blocks. And we really thought that we were in tall cotton. And I fell in love with the harrow bed. It instantly became my favorite thing to do. I literally wanted to do it day and night, didn't feel like I needed to sleep. And so I guess it would be my second business plan, because my first business plan that you would have heard with my grandfather, my first business plan was when I asked my grandfather whether or not, instead of being paid money when you're 6 to 12 years old, you don't need any money, your parents take care of all your wherewithal, that I didn't need to be making $1 or $2 an hour. I wanted to know if I could have heifers and green horses, and I could break horses and make money, and I could have heifers and breed to the bull and create a cow herd. So that was my first business plan that you probably already heard in my Little Valley story. My second business plan is I went to my dad and I was like, hey, you know what? I can take this harrow bed and I can go out and haul hay for other people, because there wasn't a ton of other people that were commercially doing that in the area. There was still a lot of opportunity for that. And I said, Dad, I can pay for our harrow bed, I can haul our hay, and I can go make enough money on top of that to put myself through college. And he was good with that. So like I said, because I was 15 to 17 years old, sleep was not mandatory. And I literally would just take naps in the harrow bed, maybe come home, sleep for a couple hours. And I literally picked up as much hay as anybody would let me do. When I got into custom jobs, I just never left. I was get as much as I could. And I'm grateful that I was able to achieve that objective, in the sense that, I helped our farm that was, struggling with expansion and access to capital at that point in time, by being able to service the debt on that harrow bed, provide a service to our farm and my dad, but also be able to put myself through college to where I didn't come out of college with any debt, thanks to that great job that I had in that little mini business plan that I came up with, which was fun to see it happen and come together. And I know I'm sure it made my dad proud as well to see that thought process and that all coming together. And so that's a big part of our little super sped up, moving from elevating hay by hand to a farm hand to harrow beds to hay squeezes. That window happened all in about a 10-year period here, all that transition. Part of it was because we were slightly behind the curve here, but literally all those things happened that quickly in that 10-ish year time frame, from me moving down here at 11 years old to me taking off to go to college in 1985. All of those things, as far as hay handling on our operation, took place in that tiny time frame. And it's just really cool to think about how quickly all that evolved and changed. and getting to go out and haul for other people, learn at, at 16 years old, 15 years old, learning to deal with fuel bills, learn to deal with collection from people, learn to deal how to billing, all that kind of stuff, because that was my responsibility. It was my project. And I'm really blessed that I not only was I getting an education at school, but I was getting a real world education out here on the farm, and very blessed for all those experiences.